This week's episode of TST is dedicated to the Humboldt Broncos of Humboldt, Saskatchewan, and the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. This past Friday, the team bus on the way to Game 5 of their playoff series was involved in a crash with a transport truck, resulting in 15 deaths and 14 others injured. This horrific event has been felt all around the town of Humboldt, the province of Saskatchewan, Canada, and the world over. To all affected and hit the hardest from this devastating loss, we send our prayers, thoughts, and deepest sympathies to you in this great time of great pain. Hello once again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of TST. My name is Andrew Rogers, your host. Thank you for joining me once again. It is an absolute pleasure to have you tune in. This episode, as mentioned, dedicated to the Humboldt Broncos. These young people had their lives taken away from us way too soon. With so much left to give, the world and the hockey community was rocked with this horrific event, and it won't ever be forgotten, rest assured. With the outpouring of support in the many various ways since this tragedy, the world has shown tremendous unity, coming together to show their support, love, and prayers to the community of Humboldt, Saskatchewan. That is truly heartwarming. We also realize that there is no amount of support that we could show to make this disappear and the events to go away and bring these young people back. We can only now move forward, celebrating their lives in a way we know that they would be proud of us for doing so. Like I said, TST, we send out our prayers, our support, our sympathies to those lost and those affected the most. We are Humboldt strong, and we have your we are giving our full support to you. And if you wish to donate, go to their GoFundMe page. They have a GoFundMe page in support of Humboldt strong and the people of Humboldt, Saskatchewan. So it's a truly horrific event, and our deepest sympathies and our deepest condolences to the families and everyone in Humboldt, Saskatchewan. So I know that these young people would want us to move on and celebrate their lives in a way that we know that they would be proud of us for doing so. So that's exactly what we're going to do. As we begin our show with our headlines, the Saugeen Shores Winterhawks, that's where we started our program today. The WOA, they had their awards banquet this past Friday, and what a night it was. Miles McLean was the big winner on the night for the Saugeen Shores Winterhawks. He picked up the Most Valuable Player awards for both the regular season and the playoffs, as well as the award for leading the team in scoring. He had an incredible year for the Winterhawks. He had 27 points in 15 games. He wins the MVP award there for, like I said, the both regular season and the playoffs, and the scoring title, 27 and 15, very impressive. Defenseman Josh Hopkin was also a dual winner, a big winner on the night. He took home the Jim Little Memorial Award as Rookie of the Year, as well as the Top Defenseman Award, which essentially is the Norris Trophy of the WOA and the Winterhawks. So very impressive. Congratulations to Josh. Richard Harris was also recognized with the Community Service Award for his countless hours committed to the Saugeen Shores minor hockey and social athletics of Saugeen Shores. So congratulations, Richard. Andy Mitchell picked up the Top Defensive Player Award for his tenacious penalty killing. He also had 17 points in 16 games. He had a very good season for the Saugeen Shores Winterhawks. Captain Greg Tatey, who played his final season as a Saugeen Shores Winterhawk, he picked up the Corey Solemway Memorial Award for his preservation, sportsmanship, and dedication to hockey. So very excited about that. Congratulations, Greg. And the final award was the Most Dedicated Winterhawk Award, and that went to the entire coaching staff. Head coach Jim Grieve and assistant coaches Mark Kazarian, Barry Hall, and goaltending coach Dave Rosner, who all took home this joint, as the award is a joint effort, given that it was their final year with the Winterhawks, as they will all depart and move on to other ventures. It was also announced that at the award night that the team would have a new head coach this upcoming year, and it is a man all too familiar with the Winterhawks, as he used to play there. He's a Winterhawk alumni, and his name is Matt Turcotte. So very excited to have Matt as the head coach, and we can only expect good things from the Winterhawks this upcoming season. We turn now our attention to the Masters, and at Augusta National, they were this past weekend, featuring the greatest names in men's golf today, and all eyes throughout the tournament was, of course, on Tiger Woods, but unfortunately it was not his weekend. Winning the major tournament, as you can see here, creating the most, Tiger Woods would finish in a tie for 32nd. He shot a 1 over for the tournament. It was American Patrick Reed capturing his first major title. He shot a 1 under 71 on Sunday. It was good enough to hold off the charges of Ricky Fowler and Jordan Spieth. Spieth was in the record books at the Masters on Sunday, shooting an 8 under 64. It is the lowest round in Masters history, and he gave Patrick Reed quite a charge, but it was unfortunately not enough. And Patrick Reed capturing his first major title at Augusta National for the Masters. Switching from the greens to the ice now, we got the Provincial Junior Hockey League. The Schmaltz Cup semifinals look like this. The Stainer Siskins got out to a hot start against the Lakefield Chiefs, winning the first two before losing the next two. Game 4 specifically, a 7-2 whitewashing from Lakefield Chiefs. Game 5 of what has turned into quite the series goes Thursday at 8:10 in Stainer. Meanwhile, on the other side, the Glanbrook Rangers had a chance to put away the Lambeth Lancers, but were unsuccessful. Lambeth winning 3-1. That is where the series stands in favor of Glanbrook. Game 5 goes tonight in Glanbrook at 7:30. Switching over to the GOJHL, the 2018 Cherry Cup champs are the Listowel Cyclones. They defeat the Elmira Sugar Kings in a 4-game sweep. For the Cyclones, it is their second consecutive Cherry Cup. Now it is on to the OHA Sutherland Cup, where the Final Four sets up like this. The Elmira Sugar Kings are the wild card, and they will go up against the top-seeded Caledonia Corvairs. This series gets underway tonight in Caledonia at 7:30. While Listowel draws the London Nationals, that series also underway tonight in London at 7:30. This Final Four just so happens to be the exact same Final Four as a year ago. Elmira looking for their second consecutive Sutherland Cup championship. We will take a break. That's it for headlines. We'll take a break. We'll come right back with our first segment on the night, and that is we want to talk about the Owen Sound Senior B North Stars. We'll be right back after this. You are watching TST, Total Sports Talk. We reached the point in the program now where we want to talk about the Owen Sound Senior B North Stars. Their training camp is underway, looking to put together a championship caliber team to compete this upcoming season. Training camp continues this Saturday, April 14th from 1 till 3, and then again Sunday on the 15th from 1 till 3. Both these training camp sessions are at the Shallow Lake Arena, looking to craft and put together a very competitive, a very strong, and what's going to be a tough, hopefully, Owen Sound Senior B North Stars lacrosse team. Also, there is some news in the Lacrosse Senior B League, and that is that the Merchants are on the move. The team will move from Brooklyn after 18 seasons there to their new home in Oshawa. So, quite the move there and quite the announcement. But it seems like everything will just pick up as normal. They'll just operate out of Oshawa instead of Brooklyn. That is the Merchants. So, very, very exciting news there. North Stars, of course, they get their season underway Sunday, May the 6th at 7 o'clock on the road against the Oakville Titans. Seems far away, but the reality is that it's fast approaching, and we here at TST cannot wait for it to get underway. We're very excited to be covering the North Stars all season long. Chris McGregor, the director of social media director, is going to be with us all season long, and he's going to help us tee up the season that is. Like I say, training camp is an interesting time. Anytime the team has a training camp, obviously, you never know who's going to come out. You might get a lot of guys from last year. That's all good and dandy. But it's really interesting when somebody new comes into a training camp situation, put on a show, make an impact, make a statement, and end up cracking that roster at the end of the day. And most of the times, those guys that you don't really expect come day one are the guys who turn into your best players, your most studly aspects of your team throughout the regular season, and sometimes they can take you all the way to that championship. But this is where it separates the good from the bad and the good from the ugly, I suppose. But it'll be really interesting. Training camp's a lot of fun, and there will be no doubt a tough competition for spots on this Owen Sound Senior B North Stars team this upcoming season. And like I said, we really look forward to covering it all season long. It should be a lot of fun, and hopefully you guys enjoy that aspect of the Senior B North Stars coverage and the league coverage too. We'll keep you up to date on the standings. We'll keep you up to date on the scores, at least as much as we keep getting the information in, because, well, if I can't get the information in, then I can't get it back to you guys, and that would be a real shame, because I do want to deliver the material in the best aspect possible. So hopefully that'll all work out and come to fruition, and it should be a lot of fun the rest of the way. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this. You are watching TST, Total Sports Talk. Welcome back, everybody. Andrew Rogers here for TST, Total Sports Talk. Thank you very much for joining me. We've reached the point in the program now where we want to talk about the Ontario Hockey League. 4 teams remain from both the Eastern Conference and Western Conference. We will take a look at the other matchups that are set in stone, and they're underway as well. But first, we want to focus in on the first 3 games of the series between your Owen Sound Attack and the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, which we're going to do right now. In game number 1, it was the Owen Sound Attack into Sault Ste. Marie to take on the Greyhounds from the SR Center. The Attack coming out on top 4-1 was the final in this one to stake the Owen Sound Attack to a 1-0 series lead. For the Owen Sound Attack, scoring on the night was Nick Suzuki with his second, Ethan Zapula with his first, Sean Dursey with his second of the playoffs, and Alan Lethargic's fifth of the playoffs was the game winner. Brett McKenzie adding a couple of assists for the Attack in the victory. While on the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds side, it was Boris Kachuk's 7th of the playoffs that was the lone marker for the Greyhounds in the loss. Morgan Frost and Barrett Hayton draw an assist on the play. Owen Sound dominating the shot clock. They outshot the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds 38-29. While on the power play, Owen Sound was 1 for 3 and Sault Ste. Marie was 1 for 6. And the goaltenders for the night, Owen Sound's Olivier Lafreniere was very solid again, like he's been all playoffs, stopping 28 of 29 in the victory. While on the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhound side, it was Matthew Villalta suffering a loss. He stopped 34 on 37 attempts. Unfortunately, he does come up with the loss. Owen Sound Attack, victorious in game number 1, 4-1 was the final. Moving on now to game number 2, still at the SR Center in Sault Ste. Marie. It was a different score this time around, though. Sioux Greyhounds responding with a Game 2 victory, 5-4 in overtime was the final. Scoring for your Owen Sound Attack was Nick Suzuki with his 3rd of the playoffs, Maxime Shushko with his 2nd, Brett McKenzie with his 5th, and Brady Lyle with his 1st. Aiden Dudas added an assist, as well as many other Owen Sound Attacks were on the scoreboard on this night. For the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, it was Hayden Verbeek adding 2 goals on the evening, his 2nd and 3rd of the playoffs. Taylor Radish had his 5th, and Morgan Frost with his 3rd. Tim Gettinger's 2nd of the playoffs was the game winner in overtime to seal the victory for the Greyhounds. Connor Timmons added a couple of assists. On the shot clock, a much different story in game number 2. The Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds outshooting the Owen Sound Attack 39-32. While on the power plays, the Owen Sound Attack went 2 for 5, while Sault Ste. Marie went 1 for 5. Olivier Lafreniere was very busy, much busier in game number 2 than game number 1, stopping 34 of 39 in the loss, while Matthew Villalta responded nicely, 28-32 for the win to lead the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds back even after 2 games. It's tied at 1 apiece. Attack then returning to home ice to take on the Greyhounds at the Bayshore in game number 3. Owen Sound coming out victorious in this one, 6-2 was the final. They lead this series now 2-1. Kevin Hancock was a big supplier on this night. He put in his 4th and 5th of the playoffs for a 2-goal night. Cade Robinson added his 1st of the playoffs, while Ethan Zapula added his 2nd and Alan Lethargic with his 6th. Aiden Dudas' 2nd was the game winner for the Owen Sound Attack, while on the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhound side, it was Morgan Frost with his 4th, and Keegan Wdnesday with his 3rd, Connor Timmins, Barrett Hayden, and Mac Hollowell adding assists. Shots were Sault Ste. Marie 30, Owen Sound 27. On the power plays, both teams going 1 for 4. Olivier Lafreniere got the W, 28 of 30 for the win. Matthew Villalta, 21 of 27 for the loss. He was pelted in this one for all 6 Owen Sound attack goals. Like I said, attack coming out on top 6-2 to take a 2-1 series lead. We now take a look at the rest of the OHL scene, starting with the East. The Hamilton Bulldogs hold a 2-1 series lead over the Niagara Ice Dogs. Hamilton jumping out to a 2-0 series lead. Niagara coming back in game number 3. All 3 of these games have needed overtime to decide it. The next game in this series game 4 goes tonight in St. Catharines at 7 o'clock. Other semifinal in the East has the Barrie Colts and the Kingston Frontenacs doing battle. This series has the 2 teams tied at 2. They are at a 2-2 standstill. Both teams victorious on home ice through the first 4 games. It's now a best of 3. Game 5 goes Thursday night in Barrie at 7:30. Moving over to the west side, the surprise of the playoffs thus far have to be the Owen Sound attack. As mentioned, they are out to a 2-1 series lead over the Sioux Greyhounds after 3 games. A decisive 6-2 win in game number 3 on home ice has them out in front. Game 4 goes tonight at the Bayshore in Owen Sound at 7. And finally, the last semifinal in the West, and second in the West, like mentioned, as the Kitchener Rangers trailing the Sarnia Sting 2-1 in their best of 7. Sarnia with a commanding 4-1 victory in Game 3 on home ice has Kitchener in must-win mode heading into game number 4 in Sarnia Thursday night at 7:05. That, of course, is your OHL story. The playoff time is compelling, and you gotta love it if you're a hockey fan and local hockey fan, especially in the smaller markets and the bigger markets like Owen Sound, Sioux Greyhounds, Sault Ste. Marie, Kitchener, and Sarnia, for example. Big hockey markets and small hockey markets. You gotta love it. It's great hockey. It's really compelling stuff. And we're getting inching closer and closer to the OHL Championship and eventually the 100th Memorial Cup, which is going to be held in Regina, Saskatchewan this year. That's all for your OHL report. We'll be right back after this. Stick around. You are watching TST, Total Sports Talk. Welcome back to the program, everybody. Andrew Rogers here for TST Total Sports Talk. Thank you very much for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you guys here. We've reached a point in the program now where we want to talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs. Maple Leafs wrapped their season, the 2018 regular season, with 2 games this past week. And then, we'll get you teed up. Playoffs start tonight officially, the 2018 NHL Playoffs. We know all the matchups. We'll get you set up for all of those in a moment. First, the wrap on the 2018 Maple Leafs regular season. Maple Leafs and New Jersey Devils from the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. New Jersey Devils coming out on top. 2-1 was the final over the Toronto Maple Leafs. New Jersey improving to 26-7, while the Maple Leafs fall to 44-28-9. Scoring for your Toronto Maple Leafs, the lone goal on the evening was William Nylander with his 20th. It was assisted by Austin Matthews and Patrick Marleau. On the New Jersey side, it was Pavel Zacha with his 8th. And Miles Wood's 18th was the game winner in the second period. Patrick Maroon drew the lone assist on both goals, giving him 2 assists on the night. Then the shot department, New Jersey out shooting Toronto 39-32 on this night. New Jersey going 0 for 2 on the power play while the Leafs went 1 for 2. New Jersey starter Keith Kincaid, who's been on an absolute tear of late, he stopped 31 of 32 in the net for the victory for the Devils, while Frederik Andersen, chasing win number 38, fell short tonight, stopping 37 of 39 in the loss. Like I said, Devils beating the Maple Leafs 2-1 on this night was the final. And finally, the Maple Leafs wrapped the regular season with a matchup at the Air Canada Centre against the Montreal Canadiens. Maple Leafs coming out on top of the Canadiens 4-2 in this one. Maple Leafs recording their 49th win of the season. They finished their regular season at 49, 26-7. It's a personal best for the Maple Leafs for the franchise with 105 points on the season. Very, very impressive season all around for the Maple Leafs. Scoring for your Toronto Maple Leafs, 4 different scorers on this night. It was Austin Matthews with his 34th, Nazem Kadri with his 32nd, Patrick Marleau is 27th. That was the empty net goal. And Zach Hyman's 15th was the game winner. Jake Gardner with a pair of assists on the night. Lone goal, scoring for the Montreal Canadiens was Daniel Carr with his 6th. Jeff Petrie with his 12th. Brandon Gallagher, Jonathan Drouin, and Michael McCarron drew assists for the Montreal Canadiens on this night. Montreal out shooting Toronto. Final tally 33-30. Toronto went 2 for 5 on the power play, while Montreal went 1 of 4. In goal for the two teams, Carey Price suffered the loss in his last start with the Montreal Canadiens, obviously in the season-ending game. 26 of 30 for the loss, while Frederik Andersen with the win in this one, stopping 31 of 33. It is his 38th win of the regular season in the nets for the Maple Leafs. That is a franchise record for wins in a season, beating Ed Belfour and Andrew Raycroft's previous record of 37. So very impressive for Frederik Andersen. Congratulations to you on that, sir. We move now to your Maple Leafs leading scorers for the regular season. As it stands, Mitch Marner led the Toronto Maple Leafs in scoring this past season. He had 22 goals, 47 assists, good for 69 points. Austin Matthews is very respectable, 63 points after missing a bunch of games during the regular season. William Nylander finished 3rd with 61. Nazem Kadri went 4th at 55. James Van Riemsdyk in the 5th spot at 54. Jake Gardner with 52. Morgan Riley with 52. They share the defenseman leading scorers. Patrick Marleau at 8 with 47. Tyler Bozak with 43 at 9. And Zach Hyman at 40 in the number 10 spot there. On to the NHL leading scorers. Connor McDavid coming all the way back after Nikita Kucherov held the NHL scoring lead for the bulk of the regular season. McDavid capturing his 2nd consecutive Art Ross trophy. 41 goals, 67 assists, good for 108. He beats out Philadelphia Flyer forward Claude Giroux, who finished in 2nd with 102 points. He's the first since Eric Lindros to record 100 points in a Flyers uniform. Like I said, Nikita Kucherov finishing at an even 100 for the 3rd spot. Evgeny Malkin at 98, Nathan McKinnon at 97, Taylor Hall with 93, Anze Kopitar with 92, Phil Kessel with 92, Blake Wheeler of the Winnipeg Jets with 91, and then Sidney Crosby at 89. Yes, of course, 3 Penguins in the top 10 in scoring. Quite impressive for them on the season. Moving now to your final standings as it looks right now. As you can see, Tampa Bay, they win the East, 113 points. Boston finishes 2nd. They finish at 112. Toronto at 105. And then you have Washington, Pittsburgh, and Philly, 105, 198 respectively. In the wild card, as it shakes out after the season's all said and done, you got Columbus in the number 1 wild card and New Jersey in the 2nd. Over on the west side, the Nashville Predators are your President's Trophy winners. They finished 1st. They got Winnipeg, and then you have Winnipeg and Minnesota in the 2-3 spots in the Central. Winnipeg at 114, Minnesota at 101. In the Pacific, the Vegas Golden Knights are the number 1 seed there, 109 points. Meanwhile, you have Anaheim and San Jose in the 2 and 3 spot at 101 and 100 respectively. Your 1st and 2nd wild cards are the LA Kings and the Colorado Avalanche. Colorado just getting in after a last day of the regular season, defeating the St. Louis Blues in regulation to take a 1-point lead over St. Louis for that 2nd and final wild card in the Western Conference. Here's a closer look now at your playoff matchups. We start in the West, where the 2nd wildcard Colorado Avalanche will go up against the mighty Nashville Predators. Nashville were the President's Trophy winners. They will rely heavily upon Pekka Rinne and his 42 wins in the regular season against Colorado, the heavy underdog. The series gets underway Thursday night in Nashville. Next up, you got Canada's lone representative on the West Conference side, has the 2nd-seeded Winnipeg Jets and the 3rd-seeded Minnesota Wild hooking up. These two Central Division teams are very evenly matched, lining up a very highly entertaining series. Goaltending will be a fun storyline in this one, as Connor Hellebuyck and his 44 wins will be tested by Minnesota's Devin Dubnyk. Series starts tonight in Winnipeg at 7. Staying in the West, the Cinderella Vegas Golden Knights open their inaugural season with a playoff berth. They will go up against playoff veterans, the LA Kings. Standout William Karlsson and his 43 goals this season, up from 6 a year ago, will be leaned heavily on, as well as goaltender Marc-Andre Fleury, winner of 3 Stanley Cups as a member of the Pittsburgh Penguins. This series starts tonight in Vegas at 10 p.m. puck drop in Game 1. Our last series out of the West is the Pacific's number 2 Anaheim Ducks and the 3 seed San Jose Sharks. Teams separated by a single point in the regular season will count on goalies John Gibson and Martin Jones to lead their team to a massive round one win, and will undoubtedly shape the victor to go on a lengthy playoff run afterwards. We will see how Game 1 shakes down this Thursday in Anaheim at 10:30. Switching over now to the Eastern Conference, the top-seeded Tampa Bay Lightning get the New Jersey Devils in the first round. Nikita Kucherov and Taylor Hall will look to carry over incredible regular seasons into successful playoff runs. This series starts Thursday night in Tampa Bay at 7. Next up, we have the playoff disappointments, the Washington Capitals going up against Columbus Blue Jackets, looking to erase painful memories of going out in the first round at the hands of the Pittsburgh Penguins a year ago. Philip Grubauer will start over Braden Holtby in the Washington net, while newcomer this year to the Blue Jackets, Artemi Panarin, will look to lead the Jackets to victory. Game 1 goes Thursday night in Washington at 7:30. And it's the playoff version of the Battle of Pennsylvania as Pittsburgh takes on Philadelphia. The Penguins come in looking to capture their third straight Stanley Cup. Meanwhile, the Flyers looking to bring back some of their magic that took them to the Stanley Cup Finals back in 2010, where they were defeated by the Chicago Blackhawks. They will need Claude Giroux to be at his very best after posting his first 100-point season, and the first for a Flyer since Eric Lindros. This series gets underway tonight at 7 in Pittsburgh. And finally, your Toronto Maple Leafs will match up with the Boston Bruins in the first round. Yes, the same Bruins team, with the odd exception that eliminated the Maple Leafs in a painful Game 7 loss back in 2013. Maple Leafs looking to advance further into the playoffs after a tough series defeat at the hands of the Washington Capitals a year ago that saw the Leafs fall in 6 games, 5 of which went to overtime. Series gets underway from Boston Thursday night at 7. The 2018 Stanley Cup playoffs are finally upon us, folks. It should be a dandy. Strap in and get ready. They should be a lot of fun. We'll take a quick break. We'll come right back with the Toronto Raptors story and the NBA story. We'll be right back. Stick around. You are watching TST, Total Sports Talk. Welcome back, everybody. Andrew Rogers here, TST, Total Sports Talk. Thank you very much for joining me, as always. It's a pleasure to have you here. This episode of TST comes dedicated to the members and the families and everyone affected from the Humboldt Broncos of the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. We're very saddened by the news that we learned this past Friday. And this episode goes out to you guys. It's dedicated to Humboldt Strong. So we move on. We want to talk about the Toronto Raptors and the NBA story. Toronto Raptors very busy last week. They had 5 games on the schedule. They have 1 more to go in the regular season. That goes tonight against the Miami Heat. It's the final day of the regular season in the NBA where we will decide every matchup in the NBA playoffs. So that should be a lot of fun. First, we'll wrap the last week that was 5 games for your Toronto Raptors. We'll start with the Toronto Raptors and the Cleveland Cavaliers from the Quicken Loans Arena in Cleveland, Ohio. Raptors falling to the Cavaliers 112-106. Raptors falling to 55-22, while the Cavaliers improved to 48-30. DeMar DeRozan led the way for the Raptors. He had 19 points and 7 assists on the night. Jonas Valanciunas with a double-double, 17-10. Serge Ibaka also had a double-double, 16-12. Pascal Siakam had himself a nice night, 10 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Fred VanVleet had 9 points and 6 assists on the evening. LeBron James, his typical LeBron James fashion, dominating the Toronto Raptors. 27 points for him, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. Jose Calderon burning his former team. He had 19 points in the victory, while Kevin Love put up an impressive 18 points, 15 boards for the Cavaliers. Like I say, the final in this one, 112-106 was the final. Raptors would then, the following night, entertain the Boston Celtics from the Air Canada Centre in Toronto. Raptors winning this one with ease. 96-78 was the final. DeMar DeRozan putting up 16, Serge Ibaka with 15, Fred VanVleet with 15, Kyle Lowry with 13, 5 boards and 5 assists, and Jakob Poeltl with 9. Boston Celtics without Kyrie Irving. Marcus Morris led the way. He had 21 points a game high and 5 boards. Greg Monroe chipped in with 17 and 8, while Al Horford added 16. Raptors doing a good job neutralizing Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, who were held to 9 and 8 points respectively. But the Raptors coming out on top with a huge win, 78 was the final. Raptors then on the Friday entertained the Indiana Pacers from the Air Canada Centre in Toronto. 92-73 victory for the Raptors in this one. Raptors improving to 57-22, while the Pacers fall to 47-33. Serge Ibaka had a huge night for the Raptors, had a game-high 25. He also chipped in 8 rebounds. DeMar DeRozan with 12, Jakob Poeltl with 10, Kyle Lowry with 9 points, 5 rebounds and 9 assists, and Jonas Valanciunas with 8 points, and he also added 12 boards. Raptors winning handedly, 92-73 was the final. Raptors then would continue their week matchup with the Orlando Magic at the Air Canada Centre this past Sunday. Raptors winning this one again, 112. 101 was the final. They improved to 58-22, while the Magic fall to 24-56. CJ Miles, a big night for the Toronto Raptors, 22 points. OG Anunoby, 21 points and 8 boards. Serge Ibaka with 13 and 8. Norman Powell, a big night for him, 13 points, 5 boards. And DeLon Wright with 12 points and 6 boards. Aaron Gordon led the Orlando Magic with 16. Raptors, with 2 games left on the schedule, can still reach 60. It's still intact. But the Raptors, 58-22 after a 112-101 victory over the Orlando Magic. Raptors would then complete their week matchup against the Detroit Pistons from Little Caesars Arena in Detroit, Michigan. Raptors improving to 59-22 with a 108-98 victory over the Pistons, who fall to 38-43. Jonas Valanciunas, 25 big points, 9 boards to lead the Raptors and all scorers in the game. DeMar DeRozan had 16 and 7. Jakob Poeltl with 12 and 7. Kyle Lowry with 11, 6 rebounds and 9 assists to go with that, and Lorenzo Brown with 11 points and 5 boards. Luke Kennard led the Detroit Pistons in scoring on this night. He had 20 points and 7 rebounds, while Reggie Jackson added 16 and 9 assists. But it was not to be enough as the Raptors, like I said, victorious on this night. 108-98, 59-22. 1 game left on the schedule against the Miami Heat, where they can reach that elusive 60 wins. That would be the most in franchise history. As it shapes out, like you could see with the standings, we start in the Eastern Conference. Toronto Raptors lead the way, and they will finish first. They have the first seed locked up, and it is quite impressive the year that they have had. They're 59-22, 5 games better than the Boston Celtics, who are in the number 2 spot. You have Philadelphia 76ers in the number 3, Cleveland in the number 4, Indiana in the number 5, Milwaukee in the number 6, Miami in the number 7, and Washington in the number 8. Those are the 8 teams that will make up the Eastern Conference playoff scenario. We do not know at this point who the Toronto Raptors will face. Realistically, they could play any of the Milwaukee Bucks, Miami Heat, or Washington Wizards, depending on who finishes in that number 8 spot. Over in the West, we've known for quite some time that Houston is going to finish number 1. They have clinched that, and they had the full control over the season. They finished 65-16. Golden State is in the number 2 spot. 58-24, very good, impressive season for them. Then you got a complete logjam here, as all the way from 3 to 9 is undecided between Utah, Portland, New Orleans, San Antonio, Oklahoma City, Minnesota, and Denver. The more interesting matchup here is Minnesota at Denver, against Denver, in a matchup to determine the number 8 seed. Winner is in, loser is out. Could make for a very interesting playoff scenario, no question about that, but it should be a lot of fun come the rest of the way for your Toronto Raptors. Like I said, 1 day left in the regular season. It happens tonight. Lots on the line to figure out positioning and who will play who, but it should be a lot of fun. We know this, though, that the Raptors will finish first, and they will play the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference's first round of the playoffs, which will get underway this upcoming Saturday. So we should look forward to that. That should be a lot of fun. So that's all for your TST report on the Toronto Raptors and the NBA story. We'll have more on next week's episode, where we'll get you caught up on the happenings of the first round. The NBA playoffs will be well underway at that point. We'll take a quick short break. We'll be right back after this. Stick around. You are watching TST, Total Sports Talk. Welcome back, folks. Andrew Rogers here for TST Total Sports Talk. Thank you very much for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you here for another week of TST. It's our final segment of the show. We talk about the Toronto Blue Jays and the MLB story. Let's get you caught up on the happenings for this past week with the Toronto Blue Jays. They're off to a surprising start, and they played very well, and they look to continue that this past week as we pick up their series midway into the second game of the series against the Chicago White Sox. They continue their 3-game set with the Chicago White Sox from the Rogers Center in Toronto. After a 4-2 victory Monday, Jays putting up a season high in hits with 15, runs with 14, and a 14-5 victory. Jays putting up a 7 spot in the bottom of the 8th inning. Aldemus Diaz and Josh Donaldson both hitting home runs for the Blue Jays, while J.A. Happ struck out 9 over 5 1/3 innings of work for the victory, his first of the season. Jays then looking for a sweep in the finale of the 3-game set, unfortunately come up on the losing side of a 4-3 score. Jose Abreu's solo home run in the 8th inning off Ryan Tepera was the difference in this one. Jays fall to 4-3 on the season. Like I said, they dropped the third game, 4-3 final for the Chicago White Sox. After an off day Thursday, the Jays started a 3-game set on the road against the Texas Rangers. Blue Jays racing out to an 8-0 lead before holding on for an 8-5 win. Marco Estrada was sharp, striking out 7 in 6 innings of work for his first win of the season. Roberto Osuna with an 11-pitch scoreless ninth for his 3rd save of the year. Jays and Rangers then once again from Texas saw the Blue Jays 6-game win streak snapped. Mike Minor was pitched an absolute gem for the Texas Rangers. He struck out 7 in 6 innings. Meanwhile, Marcus Stroman was unable to get out of the 5th inning, getting tagged for 5 earned runs for his first loss of the season. He's been battered around this year early on. He looks to turn that around in his next start. Finale of a 3-game set between the Rangers and the Blue Jays saw the Jays come out on top 7-4 in this one for the victory. Jaime Garcia picked up his first win as a Blue Jay. Roberto Osuna earned his 4th save of the season, and Steve Pearce and Kendrys Morales both hit their first home runs of the season for the Jays in the victory. Jays would then open up a 3-game set from Camden Yards in Baltimore against the Orioles. Jays routing the O's 7-1. Josh Donaldson hit his 4th grand slam of his career in a 5-run 9th inning to break open the game. J.A. Happ earned his 2nd win of the season, striking out 9 in 6 innings of work. Jays then finished this past week the second of a 3-game set against the O's, winning a tightly contested game 2-1 to stretch their winning streak to 3. Aaron Sanchez was absolutely dominant on this night. He took a no-hitter in the 8th inning before allowing 3 hits in the 8th, tying the game at 1, setting the scene for Curtis Granderson in the top of the 9th. He crushed a solo home run, giving Aaron Sanchez the win and the Blue Jays the win. 2-1 was the final. Roberto Osuna also becoming the youngest player in MLB history to record 100 saves, his 5th of the season. Jays now sitting at 8-4. Interesting note about that, they did not have 8 wins on the season until April 29th of last year. The Jays are on a roll and they're playing really well out of the gate. It's actually quite surprising where they stand this early on in the MLB standings. Let's take a look at that right now. The Boston Red Sox lead the American League East. They are at 9-1. The Toronto Blue Jays are at 8-4. They are in the number 2 spot, two games back. You have the Yankees at the number 3, 5-6. Baltimore at 4-8, and Tampa Bay at 3-8. Over in the AL Central, the Minnesota Twins and the Cleveland Indians are tied for first. Minnesota at 5-4, Cleveland at 6-5. You have the Detroit Tigers at 4-6 in the number 3. Kansas City at 3-6, and the White Sox at 3-7 are in 4-5 respectively. Over in the AL West, you have the Houston the Houston Astros and the LA Angels both at 9-3 apiece. Then you have the Seattle Mariners at 5-4, 2.5 back. Oakland at 4-8 at 5 games back, and Texas at 4-9. They are 5.5 back. Switching over now to the National League, you have the Mets at 9-1. They are hot to start. They lead the NL East by 3.5 games over both Atlanta and Washington. The Philly at 5-5, 4 games back, and Miami at 3-8, 6.5 back. Over in the NL Central, the Pittsburgh Pirates are also off to a hot start, 8-2 on the year, 3 games better than the Chicago Cubs at 5-5. You have Milwaukee at 6-6, also 3 games behind. St. Louis at 5-6, 3.5, and Cincinnati Reds at 2-8 in the basement of the NL Central. And then finally in the NL West, you have the Arizona Diamondbacks at 8-3. They lead the division by 2.5 games over the San Francisco Giants. They are at 5-5. Colorado Rockies at 5-7. LA Dodgers slow out of the gate. They are 4-6, and San Diego Padres at 4-8. So yes, as mentioned, the Toronto Blue Jays are finishing a 3-game set with the Baltimore Orioles tonight in Baltimore. It's Marco Estrada versus Kevin Gausman in this one. It is a 7:05 first pitch from Camden Yards in Baltimore. Then with a day off Thursday, the Jays then finish up a 9-game road trip with a 3-game set in Cleveland against the Indians. Pitching for the Jays over the 3-game set is Marcus Stroman, Jaime Garcia, and J.A. Happ. They will be opposed from the Indians from Mike Clevenger, Corey Kluber, and Josh Tomlin. Jays then will return home to entertain the Kansas City Royals in a 3-game series from the Rogers Center. Projected starters for the Jays in that series are Aaron Sanchez, Marco Estrada, and Marcus Stroman. For the Royals, it'll most likely be Danny Duffy, Ian Kennedy, and Jason Hamill, barring any injury setbacks. That's it for your Toronto Blue Jays report for this week's episode of TST. We'll be right back after this to wrap the show. Stick around. You are watching TST, Total Sports Talk. Welcome back. Andrew Rogers here for TST Total Sports Talk. Just want to take this opportunity to thank you for watching another episode of TST Total Sports Talk. This episode, again, dedicated to those lives lost in the Humboldt Broncos, the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League team, who had unfortunately had a collision this past Friday on their way to a playoff game, and unfortunately their team bus collided with a semi-truck, and 15 lives were lost, 14 injured, and many in that community who are at a loss for pretty much everything. And they need our help and they need our support more than ever. And continue to please to give what you can. They have a GoFundMe page set up for Humboldt, so check that out and make sure to donate. It's all throughout the hockey community this has been felt, and again, TST sends their condolences, prayers, and thoughts to those affected, those lives lost, and those families. So Andrew Rogers signing off for another episode of TST Total Sports Talk, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you very much for watching, and take care, folks.